Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly workspace setup webinar. Thank you so much for coming. As always, I am your host, John Bowman. We're really excited to have you on today to help you get set up inside your account and to make sure we answer any questions that you have while we're talking. That being said, let's make sure we go over some ground rules for our webinar. First, if you guys would, open up the chat. Let me know where you're located across the country or world. I'm actually in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it is a balmy 60 degrees outside. It's so warm. In fact, I wish I was outside giving you this webinar, but I'll make do with being inside. Looks like we've got well over 100 people. This is awesome. Let's see where folks are listed. We've got Irvine, California, Connecticut. Hello from Rome. I was just in Rome, actually back in 2019. It was amazing. If you guys have never been to Rome, highly recommend going. Oregon, oh, Germany, great. Athens, Greece. Wow, I would love to be. That's wonderful. That's honestly, folks, this is one of the best parts about these webinars that we host is that I get to talk with people all over the world. And every week, it just makes my little heart filled with joy to be able to interact with people and know that we are making a difference in your lives. We're using ClickUp to make your life better, to save you time. Looks like we got people from Scotland, from Quebec, Ski Hills, Littletown. Oh, wow, that's great. That's wonderful. Uruguay, wonderful. France, in the Alps. I've always wanted to go to the Alps. Oh man, this is great. Western Massachusetts, all over the world, the UK, San Francisco, Detroit, Michigan. So folks, we are a diverse bunch. We are all over the world and we are all united though in our hopes to save some time every week and to get ClickUp set up the way that we want it to be set up. Oh, latecomer from Switzerland. Switzerland is a beautiful country. So again, thank you all for doing that and letting everybody know where you come from. I appreciate that. As we go, feel free to ask your questions. So the way this webinar works is you can use the Q&A section of Zoom to ask your questions as we go along. And I've got some friends from ClickUp here from our coaching team and our support team who are here to answer those questions as we go. I'm not going to pause to answer those individually. However, the most upvoted questions we will answer towards the end of our time today. And speaking of time today, we've set aside about 45 minutes. Now, last week when we did this, it went a little bit longer. So I'm more than happy to stay just a little bit longer to make sure we're answering those questions that are important for you. But I just want to make sure we're aligned that at the end of 45 minutes, you will be able to feel comfortable about setting up your workspace. You have the general rules and ideas in mind. So what's on today's agenda? Well, we're going to start off with why you should use ClickUp. Some of you are just building out your workspace and you may be thinking, I know that I need this, but why do I need this? Next, we'll talk about how you should actually organize your workspace. And this one is really big and close to my heart. I'm a big fan of the idea of 1 minute of organization will help to save you 1 hour of productivity. What I mean by that is we've all had that notion of when we come through the door every day after work, we would put our keys, maybe, hopefully in the same place every day. That's organization, because putting your keys in the same place every day, that saves you an hour of productivity. That hour that would be lost going to look for those keys every time you walk through the door. So organization matters. So we want to make sure that when you're building out your workspace, you build it out in an organized fashion, so you know exactly where everything should be and where it should be located. And then finally, after we get through that, we're going to talk about our template center and our task views, and we're going to build something together inside the application itself using our template center so you can actually see how this is all going to work. Without further ado, why use ClickUp? Well, frankly, our mission is to save people time by making the world more productive. Ideally, we'd like to save you an hour a day, my apologies, every week. Not an hour, a day. What would you do with another day back in your lives, folks? I know what I would do. I'd be more productive. I'm a big fan of productivity. That's why I love working here at ClickUp. But again, the general idea here is our mission is to save you time by making the world more productive. And you can take that time, you can reinvest it, into your family, into your hobbies, into fun, maybe into work, right? Maybe you have a side hustle you want to put it into. This is what we want you to accomplish using ClickUp. Well, how can you accomplish that? And how are we bringing this mission out into the world? Well, it usually comes down to three main ideas: focus, flexibility, and transparency. First, the idea of focus. Our motto is one app to replace them all. And we mean that. We're building the one application you can use to do all your work. We want you inside of the app, getting everything done that you can get done. And we want to help you to minimize context switching. I don't know if any of you know about context switching, but it can really, really be a drain on your day. You know, if you're moving back and forth between different things, different apps, different options, it breaks your focus and you don't have the opportunity to do any deep work. Shout out to that book, Deep Work by Cal Newport. I don't know if you've ever read that. It's a pretty good book to check out. But the idea is that ClickUp is going to help you to focus on your work, to help to minimize those context switching. Next, the idea of flexibility. We all have our own methods, right? Sometimes there may be a method to our madness, maybe. But the general idea is that you have a way you like to work. And we don't want to be opinionated about forcing you to work a certain way. We want to empower you to see the work the way you want to see it and to get it done the way you want to get it done. So one of the things about ClickUp that I love is how flexible the tool is. If you want to work maybe from Kanban view, you can do that. If you maybe want to work from lists view, you can do that. If you like working in spreadsheets, you can do that. All that and more is possible inside the application because we want to meet you where you are, to not make you work against our application, but to allow you to work with it to get more things done. Third, and finally here is the idea of transparency. Directly underneath that, I've got 6 words: source of record and source of action. The source of record is kind of important. I think we all sort of understand what that is, but in case we don't, it's the audit trail. You know, it's what has been done by whom and when, and what did they do? ClickUp for your firm, for your company, for your personal life, it becomes that source of record, especially if you're collaborating with others. If you ever have a question about what somebody did or didn't do a week ago, a month ago, an hour ago, you can log into ClickUp and you can see that source of record. You can see what's happened. Next is the idea of source of action. Not only can you see what's happened, but you can see what they're going to be doing next, because that work will live inside of ClickUp. You get the ability to drill down to particular projects and see exactly what has occurred and what is going to occur next. And this is what every person and company needs in their life. It's that type of organization and transparency, which is going to enable you to be more productive and get more things done. And our vision for this app has been the same since it was 3 years ago when we started. We want to make sure you can get all your work done in the same place and you don't have to go to different apps for different types of work or different size teams. We want it to be flexible and less opinionated to accommodate for you for anything that you're doing. So now that we've kind of aligned on why you should use ClickUp and how ClickUp's going to help you, let's talk a little bit about how you should organize your workspace before we hop into the workspace and give you some visual representations of this. Generally speaking, there are 7 different levels of your workspace. At the very top, we have the workspace. This is where all of your work is going to get done. If you work at a company, your company is going to have, generally speaking, one workspace. And workspaces are how ClickUp is provisioned. So generally speaking, you cannot collaborate across workspaces, right? So your company is going to want to have one workspace, and all the work, all the things you guys are doing together is going to be inside that workspace. Or you could have a workspace for your personal life. Again, that's going to be the workspace where all of your personal projects and things that are ongoing are stored. Down here below is the idea of a task. The task is the unit of work. It's how you measure what has been done. It's also how you're going to collaborate across different teams or with other people in your personal life to get things done. The tasks, again, are the focus of ClickUp. And we want to make sure we're going to give you a good understanding of how to use tasks in today's webinar. Tasks can be broken up into the idea of subtasks as well as checklists. And just think for either one of these, it's just a basic unit to break something down further. Subtasks have all the different features of the tasks, whereas checklists do not. We'll get more into that a little bit later. Between the idea of tasks and the workspace, you see there are 3 different options. We're going to start here with the idea of a list. If you have a task, a unit of work, it must live in a list. Tasks and lists go hand in glove. They work together. So every task that you have is going to be positioned on a list. From the workspace level, you're going to divide up your workspace into a space. Think about a space maybe as a high-level initiative, a really large project, maybe a particular customer is a really large customer that you're going to have a lot of complex projects in. Or, again, you could just have spaces be different departments inside of your company. If you have a workspace for your entire company, the workspace is kind of like your office building. The spaces here are going to be the different levels inside of that office building. So you might have an accounting level, you might have a finance, a sales level, you might have a support level. They'd have all these different spaces inside of your workspace as well. In between spaces and lists is the idea of folder. Folders are not mandatory, but folders are a great way for you to organize your lists. Again, if we have a particularly complex project, then we might create it as a folder, and we might have different phases as different lists inside of that folder. So again, just want to make sure we're aligned on these concepts before we dive into the application. Here we go. All right, you should all be seeing my instance of ClickUp. And you may notice it's bare. There's nothing here. And Frank, we did that on purpose, right? The whole point of this webinar is because you folks might be looking at this bare instance of ClickUp as well for your personal account. And so we want to show you that you can start from as little as, nothing at all inside your account, and within 45 minutes, you can be set up. You can have your skeleton structures in place. Remember, as we're talking today, feel free to ask questions inside of the Q&A of our Zoom webinar. All right. So I know everybody learns differently, and some people might be visual creatures. So we're gonna make sure you can visually see what we were just talking about. And the way we're gonna do that is I'm gonna use something called a mind map. So this is a cool feature inside of ClickUp. You can use it to create, explore ideas, right? So I'm gonna just explore an idea here, and it says root node, but instead we're gonna talk about that idea of the workspace, right? So you're gonna have one workspace, and that workspace is gonna have several spaces inside of it. So it might be, space 1 and space 2, and then space 3, right? So then we have these spaces inside of my workspace. Well, just like we said inside that representation, these spaces can be divided up into folders. So we can say folder 1 and folder 2, and then folder 3. Again, folks, we're creating this visual guide for you so that you can eventually see how your work is going to be created and organized inside of ClickUp. Those of you who are keen listeners, you may recognize the idea that you do not have to use folders if you don't want to. So on the space level, you can always come here, and maybe you want to create a list. So we can have list 1 there as well, okay? If you are a fan of mind maps, there's a really cool little relayout button up here in the top. You can see it's creating a branch structure for our work, okay? So you have the workspace. The workspace is made up of spaces, and those spaces will have folders or lists inside of them. And if they do have folders, then those folders may contain lists, right? So we might say list 1, list 2, and list 3. Now, one question we generally get is there a maximum number of folders or lists that you can do? And the number is 400. So inside of a space, you can have 400 folders, and inside of a folder, you can have 400 lists. So as you can imagine, you can get really complex with the projects that you're tracking inside of ClickUp. I'm not saying you have to, simpler is often better. But if you do have any very large projects, it is a great idea to know that you can accommodate them inside of ClickUp. On these lists, like we were talking about previously, is the idea of tasks, right? If you're going to have tasks, and the tasks are the basic unit of work inside the program, so you're going to have tasks, then your tasks are going to be located on your lists. So I can say task number 2, task number 3. Let's go task number 4. There we are. We'll hit this relayout button. And again, folks, you're seeing the branching nature here. I'm only building out one particular space, but everything we have up here, imagine it here as well, and down here as well, and even in other spaces as well. it is a tree structure, right? So you can see all the different areas and locations of tasks. So we have the idea of tasks here, and we mentioned it previously. You may also put in subtasks. So we can say subtask 1. And we can say subtask 2 and subtask 3. There we are. Pretty darn cool, right? So you can take your tasks, you can divide them up into subtasks, and we're not going to get too into that in this webinar as well. But if you wanted to, this is not the end. You can actually go really, really deep with subtasks. You can do what we call nested subtasks. So you can take subtasks and go down different layers. So we can have, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. We can go all the way down to 7 layers deep inside subtasks as well. So again, if you have complex projects, we can handle them inside of ClickUp. And those projects can be done on the task level, on the list level, the folder level, or the space level. You can do it pretty much everywhere inside of ClickUp that you want. So again, folks, this was meant to be a visual representation for how your work is eventually going to look inside of ClickUp. You have a workspace. It's divided up into spaces. Those spaces are going to have folders, which will contain your lists. Your lists will be tied to your tasks, and your tasks can be divided up into subtasks and even nested subtasks from there. If you have any questions about how your work is going to be organized, feel free, again, just put it inside the Q&A as we go along. My dear friends from our coaching team and support team, again, will be answering this for you. So now that we have the general concepts of how we're going to actually build out work inside of ClickUp, well, we probably want to make sure that we are building something. We're going to click the spaces here. And as you can see, I have a space, and that space has a list, right? So if I click the space option here, I can see, again, I have the list. And this list is showing me the diagram that we created. But I can also go back to the list level and see any tasks that are associated with that list. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you guys in the audience, what kind of workspace or what kind of use case do you want me to build out? And generally speaking, the way we're going to do this is we're going to use a template from our template center. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend that you check out our template center, okay? So on the space level, or on the list level, or on the folder level, you can click the plus option, look for the template center option, and then select Browse Templates. Here inside the Browse Templates section of the Template Center, you can see all of the different community available templates that are available to you. This is really darn cool, in my opinion, because this is just free information, right? Depending on how you work or where you work or what you do, you can come in here and you can see all of these free example ways to use ClickUp to do what needs done. Education's a cool one right now, as well as design, media, sales. There's a bunch of different options here. So I want to hear from you folks inside the chat. If you want to open it up, go ahead and say what it is that you'd like to see. Do you want to see perhaps marketing? Maybe you might want to see finance and accounting. Looks like there's somebody asking for a research project, service desk, real estate transactions. Ooh, these are all good ones. Fun little fact about me. I am also a real estate agent. So we got project management, client management. These are all possible, folks. Okay, great. A CRM is also inside of here. So literally when you're inside this template center, what we can see is the idea if we can type in CRM, right, and hit search, what it'll do, it'll narrow down for you. And someone asked for a real estate agent. We got real estate agent right here. We got a simple CRM right here. You can come in here and you can see, oh, bookkeeping and payroll, lots of recurring tasks. Oh, okay. So bookkeeping and payroll is actually very near and dear to my heart because accounting is the language of business. It really is. I know accounting is kind of gets a bad rap out there because everyone thinks, oh, accounting's so boring and dry. But if you want to succeed in business, you have to have business acumen, and accounting is a great way to get it. So I'm going to let's pick finance because that's going to include things like accounting. So what I did here is let's select the folder option. Here in the folder option, someone asked for project management. You can see all the different folders that are available for you for project management, and even agile project management's in here. Somebody asked for research projects. Take a look here at student and class planning and class management. These are all really great for you. If we scroll down though, I've got to find the finance folder. There we go. So look at all these different finance folders that are available to us. Software development, that's another one that's inside here. Website building, all that kind of stuff. Help desk tickets are also inside of here. We're going to do finance today. We can do software development perhaps in our next week. Inside of our finance folder, we've got an accounting folder, right? And if we click here, you can see more information about this particular folder template. So inside of this accounting folder template, we can use this template. When we click the use template option, it's going to allow us to pick a particular name, right? And inside this name, I'm just going to pick, we'll just call this accounting. So this is a general accounting folder, and we're going to put it inside my space here. If we wanted to, we could always select a different space where we're going to position it. Down here below, it's going to say import options. This is really an awesome feature inside of ClickUp. Anytime you're creating your templates, and as an aside, we were talking about business acumen, you need to be using templates, folks. It's the only way to scale your business. It really, really is. If you haven't read it yet, give the book E-Myth Revisited a read. It's a great way to sort of understand, okay, creating repeatable processes is a way to scale any business out there, and templates are the secret to that inside of ClickUp. So when you're importing those templates, you have the option to import everything, or you can select which items from the template you would like to actually import at that time. So just because you've saved a template a certain way, doesn't mean you have to reuse that template that way again and again. As you notice, again, you can select different items to include or not. And then we're going to just import everything in this case. Down here below, we also have project dates. So we have the option to import as is or to remap those dates. And usually I like to pick an end date and select that particular end date that we wanted to have happen on. In this case, because it's just a template that's generic, I'm not going to worry too much about that. And then down here below, I can also include any archive tasks that have come in. So we're going to click this Use Template button. In the bottom left, it's going to give you a nice little modal. It's going to tell you we're creating that folder. I'll tell you your folder has been created. And voila, the accounting folder has been created. That folder has been populated with two lists. We've got accounts payable, we've got accounts receivable. And on each one of these lists, it's populated by different tasks. And again, these tasks will have things like custom fields associated with them, which we'll show you in a second. But before we get too into tasks, I do want to show you that again, how to get to the template center. You just click the plus button on the level of the hierarchy that you want to import the template. We select Template Center from the dropdown, and then we select Browse Templates. Once we've selected Browsing Templates, you can narrow it down to the community or perhaps your own personal templates inside your account. Additionally, we can filter down to potentially the folder level if we're looking for folder level templates, or list level if we're looking for list level templates. In this case, we're sticking with the folder level. And then we're going to go down here to the finance area. We can pick a particular area here. Somebody suggested bookkeeping earlier, so we'll make sure we pick the bookkeeping firm folder. We can use that template. And as I mentioned, you can come here and you can, bookkeeping, my apologies. There we go. You can name it. You can select the space you want it to go to, customize what brings in, click the use template option. And when we do, you're going to see it's creating that folder for us. We'll give it a little time to create that folder. Once it creates it, it'll be populated here on the left-hand side. There we go. We see the bookkeeping folder has populated, and it's been populated with these lists that contain example tasks for us to take a look at. I'm just going to do this one more time. I'm not going to explain it, but I just want more data for us as I'm doing it, just so we have more data to work with today. So I'm going to click that plus button. When I click that plus button, I go to the template center, browse templates, remove the list from view, scroll down to the finance area. And we'll just add one more template in here so that we have plenty of data to work with. Resource management. We'll come back to that idea of data a little bit in a little bit. It actually is tax time. If there's any tax accountants on the call today, I feel your pain. I used to work at a software company that was focused on the accounting sphere. And to better understand tax preparation, I actually went and worked at H&R Block for the last 2 years, which was an interesting experience. So if we ever work together, ask me about it. I've got some stories for you of people coming in on April 15th at 9 p.m. wanted to get their taxes. That was fun. All right, so we populated out this account, right? We've got this data inside the account. We're going to focus in here on the important part, or the data, again, that we're talking about inside of ClickUp, and that's the idea of these tasks. And these tasks are tied to specific lists. So inside this bookkeeping folder, we see a list here that has monthly action items on it, and this list is populated by different tasks. Now you may notice as I select different areas of the hierarchy, so if I pick another list, my tasks that are visible to me, well, they increase or decrease in scope. So because I'm on this list, I'm only seeing the tasks which are present on this list. However, if I move to the monthly action items list, well, now I can see more tasks, and that's because those tasks live in this list. Or if I go to client onboarding, again, I see the tasks that are present on that list. But if I go up the hierarchy to the bookkeeping firm level, well, look at that. Now I'm seeing all of those lists tasks, right? Seeing client onboarding, monthly action items. I scroll down here, I see yearly action items, right? As you travel up and down the hierarchy, the tasks that you view and can interact with changes based upon the location. We can even go higher, folks, to the space level. And here on the space level, we can see I'm looking at all of the lists that are contained inside all of these folders. So if I open them up, you can see we can keep scrolling. We're working with all of these different tasks across all of these different lists and folders. All right. So again, folks, keep that in mind as we're working today. Depending on the location of us inside of the hierarchy, that's the data we're going to be working with. If we click into any particular task here, there are at least 4 best practices that I like to call out, and then a 5th that's kind of important for how you use your work. So first and foremost, whenever you're doing work inside of ClickUp, or whenever you're working with other people inside of ClickUp, you must at a minimum do these 4 things. Top left, this is called the status. This is the state of the task. You can say open, in progress, stuck, whatever you want. We can select stuck here and change it. But the general idea is you update the status, and that is a status update. If you're working with other people, they no longer ever have to ask you what is the state of this work that you're working on, because you've updated the status of that work. These statuses are really important for things like reporting as well. So you want to make sure that you are keeping your statuses up to date inside the program. A question we do get sometimes is, can I customize these statuses? And the answer is yes. You can actually customize these statuses on each level of the hierarchy. So you can change it on the space level, on the folder level, on the list level as well. You can have specialized statuses. Generally speaking, I recommend that you don't do that, that you try and keep them as standardized as possible across different folders and lists, because it aids in your reporting. To the right of the status, we have the assignment option. And the assignments are rather important because we got to say who's going to do this work. In this case, I'm going to pick my friend, Michael Scott. Because Michael's not always the most reliable guy, I'm going to have my friend Dwight Schrute work with him. So Michael Scott and Dwight Schrute are assigned to this particular task. You can assign multiple people to tasks, and you can remove folks by hitting the little X in the top to remove them. That's the second best practice. The third is the idea of a due date. Due dates are important. Do you know why? Because due dates are a time to account, right? If you want to be able to hold people accountable, if you want to be able to hold yourself accountable, you need to give yourself the chance to account. So due dates are those dates, right? They're the dates where you say, this is when I was supposed to get this thing done. Or depending on your company, maybe the due dates are the date that you have the next task or next subtask that needs to be done. So I can pick a due date here. I'll pick the 12th of Friday. And then I can also put in a start date. So maybe this is supposed to be started on Monday. I can have a start date. I can have a due date. These 3 things of statuses, assignments, and due dates, at a very bare minimum, they are what you want to have at a minimum on every task, because it allows you to plan out your work, allows you to see who's assigned to what, and to make sure that those people can be held accountable. Down here below is another best practice called the comment section. The comment section is a great place for you to go to collaborate with your team. So here inside the comment section, I might ask my good friend, Jim Halpert, hey, you've worked with this client in the past. How do I do this, right? We can add that comment. And sorry, my spelling and typing is abhorrent whenever people are watching me. But the general idea here is you can ask people questions directly on the work you're working on. And you're having that conversation about the work you're working on directly on the work you're working on. I know you have email. I know you have Slack. These things are important and they help your business to run. However, things that are in your email, they're in your email. Generally speaking, you don't share your email password with other people. Your email is going to be a siloed area. No one else has access to it unless they're CC'd or BCC'd. And frankly, email is not a really great way to project manage. Secondly, the idea of Slack. Slack is great, right? Slack is a really wonderful tool to collaborate with and on. However, the nature of Slack is that it's ephemeral. Every time you might miss something, it could be anywhere and you didn't see it. Or it could be in a channel you're just not part of. Somebody hasn't mentioned you, so you don't know, right? The comments section inside your tasks is where you need to be putting the information about the work you're working on directly on the work you're working on, because it creates that source of record. Right? It helps you to go back and see an audit trail. This person asked for this. This person put in, the status updates today. I've done X, Y, or Z on this particular thing. You can do that. You can also have replies that are in line, right? So you can reply, and if I'm Jim, I can come back and say, Pam, I used to do this, right? You can add that in. Something else that's rather fun that I love to show people, just because I think GIFs are really cool, is inside of the comments section, you can hit the / command. And that / command allows you to do things like rich text editing, but it also gives you access to a number of different things, for example, like Giphy. And we might select a fun GIF, and we'll just hit save. And when we do, there we go. We got a fun GIF that we can add in and collaborate with people on, right? So we can have that come in, and we can have a great team fun together. I love it whenever I see GIFs inside of our chains at work. It's great. So folks, those are the 4 best practices at a minimum you should be doing on every one of your tasks inside of ClickUp. Statuses, assignments, due dates, collaboration at a minimum, okay? There's a lot more features inside of here that we're not gonna cover. The idea of time tracking, the idea of descriptions, where you can also use the / command. Down here below, subtasks, you can take tasks and divide them up in subtasks, add attachments, all that kind of stuff is all in here. The thing we're going to focus on instead is the idea of custom fields, because custom fields will dictate how successful you are inside of ClickUp. Inside of here, you can see the billing category, the notes that are there, any pending client responses, yes or no, or any progress that's ongoing. This progress bar is a custom field because if we add any subtasks to it, if we type in subtask 1 or subtask 2, this particular task, and we complete a subtask, well, take a look. It updates real time for you to see the progress that's ongoing. These custom fields allow you to track things across your different tasks. They help you to categorize, they help you in reporting, they help you a ton to make your workspace your own, okay? So keep your custom fields in mind and plan your custom field usage. They're very similar to the idea of the status we were talking about earlier, how you can have custom fields or statuses that are specific to a particular list, that are specific to a particular folder, or are specific to a particular space. Again, if you have too many custom fields, it can be like a lot, right? So you want to make sure whenever you're creating these custom fields that they're localized to the area of the hierarchy you're working on. If we click the little 3 dots, you'll be able to see the idea of custom fields for this particular list. And when we click it, you can see the custom fields that are available on this list. And you may notice it says the idea of folder fields, right? That's because these custom fields are actually set at the folder level, but because they're set at the folder level, they trickle down to the list level, right? So here at the Bookkeeping Firm, if we click the custom fields option, you can see again, folder fields, same folder fields. And because those fields are set up in this folder and these lists are contained inside this folder, then the tasks that are inside these lists will have access to those custom fields. If we go to the accounting folder here and we click custom fields, well, take a look. These fields are different. We've got different custom fields in this folder, right? So you can adjust and change those custom fields. There's a couple of ways to add custom fields to your screen. In the top right, see this little plus button? Remember, you want to be on the right area of the hierarchy, right? So we're inside of this particular list. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a custom field for this list. The way we do that is we hit that plus button, and on the right-hand side, we can select the type of custom field that we want to create. In this case, maybe we might want to track, let's see. We probably want to track something along the lines of a dropdown. And that dropdown might be something like type of work. And that type of work, maybe it's something along the lines of cleanup work, because if you're a bookkeeper, you're gonna have to clean up people's books, right? Cleanup work, or maybe instead of cleanup work, it just might be, regular monthly package. You can add those things in. You can also add cool colors. So you can select the color here, that one there. You can add those column. When we add this column, we've created that custom field for this particular list of monthly action items. We can then select it, select the particular one we want, monthly package, cleanup item, whatever it is that we want there. You can select it. Oop, I clicked the wrong button, I hit the edit button. But you can see how you can actually update and track things across your tasks. And this will enable you again to report out on things in the future as well. So we're talking about tasks, right? We're talking about these tasks as a unit of work, but these tasks are also kind of data, right? Your tasks are what you're getting done at any given time. And we're seeing this data in a list format. Up here at the top of the screen, you can see the idea of a list. Well, up here are things we call task views. So just because we're seeing these things as a list, it doesn't mean we have to. I'm going to call back to our initial presentation. And in our initial presentation, we talked about the idea how you can take your tasks and you can visualize them and change them the way you want to and work the way you want to. We've been showing you, again, the list view, but you might want to work like a Kanban view, like a board view. If we select this board view here, there you go. Same data, just presented a different way. You're seeing the same tasks, but they're grouped by their status in the board view, and you can take those particular tasks and move them back and forth between the different statuses like I'm doing right now. Remember, we're located here on this level of the hierarchy, on the list level. So we're only dealing with those tasks which are inside this list. If we wanted to, we could move up to the bookkeeping firm level. You can see again, the tasks we're working with are now all the tasks across these different lists. And if we go to the board view, then you're gonna see there's a lot more tasks for us to work with. And we can take a particular task and move it no matter what list it's in, right? To the right of that board view is also the idea of a calendar view. In this case, when we click it, there we are. We can see we have a one task that I just created today, right? While you're watching me, but this task has a start date on Monday and an end date on Friday. Well, what I can do with this task is maybe it's gonna take longer. I can click and drag and make it take longer. Or maybe it's gonna take shorter. I can click and drag and change it. And then I can move it to particular today's date. I can click that task as well. And when I do, it brings me to that same task screen where I can see what exactly is ongoing as well as who's assigned to it, all right? If you want to change your view though, there's going to be different options that you can see above here to change them. We'll get more into these options in a bit. But folks, remember, the idea of these task views is how you can see the tasks the way that you want to see them. You can see them as a list, you can see them as a board, you can see them as a calendar, or you can click this plus view option and you can visualize them a myriad of different ways. We have that mind map, we've got the Gantt view, we've got the box view, activity view, table view. If you're a bookkeeper, you probably like table view just because that's a spreadsheet. We're going to show you how to create one of these views from scratch. We were talking about the idea of spaces, right, earlier. So I've got one space here, but in the future, I'm going to have a bunch of different spaces, different departments, different stuff that's ongoing. Well, there's the everything level, which will take into account all of the tasks across every different space. And here on the everything level, we're going to show you a quick way to create new views. Just going to assign these tasks out real quick to a bunch of different people. Here we are. Excellent. All right. So here's how you create a view that you want. You click the plus view option. You can select list view, right? In this case, list view is default. So I'm just going to call this my urgent tasks, right? Here in the my urgent tasks view, we're going to add this view. When I add this view, you can see it says my urgent tasks. So before I get into how to customize this a bit, I just want to make sure we're all aware of the idea of me mode. Me mode's in the top right. When you click that me mode option, it's going to take whatever level of the hierarchy you're located on, and it's going to narrow down the scope of tasks you see to only see those tasks where you're assigned, or you have comments, or you have subtasks or checklists. So anytime you see this purple bar across the screen, realize that you're only seeing things that are assigned to you. You can always go back to everyone or pick particular people that you want to see as well, right? So you can always do that here inside of me mode. There we go. So you can see, again, John B., Jim Halpert, voila, right? So we're just going to select all there, close that. Okay, so first, me mode is really great, and you'll want to use me mode often. But you may also want to change what you're seeing further. And what I mean by that is, whenever you're working in the list view, your tasks are going to be grouped by your status. So you can see for every list here, there's different tasks in each different status. Ready to pay, unpaid. Maybe we can take a particular task, move it up. Cool, now it's ready to pay status, etc. Right? So these tasks are grouped by status, but in this case, I'm going to group them by due date. So I just selected the group option and I selected group due date. And as you can see, all these tasks are overdue at the top. I've got one due today, one that's got no due date at the bottom. I just changed the grouping option there. So we select the due date. Maybe we might want to switch to priority. We can switch it to priority pretty darn easily. See the priority option as well. We're going to go back to the due date. Not only can you group your tasks different ways, but you can filter your tasks different ways. So in this case, I might want to filter down and see things that are assigned to a particular person. Let's pick Jim Halpert. When I selected Jim's name as the assignee, well, he's only got one task and it's grouped by due date, right? But maybe I want to remove Jim from there. Instead, I might want to focus perhaps on the idea of priority, and I can select the idea of narrowing it down to urgent priority tasks only. There we are. I'm seeing urgent priority tasks only. If I assign these to myself, I might just turn back on me mode. And when I do, I'm seeing all of my tasks grouped by due date that are assigned to me that are of the urgent priority. And if I wanted to, I could sort these in order. So I can have the tasks that are most overdue at the top and tasks that are least overdue at the bottom. This is an example of what we talked about, the customization of views that you can do. You can take your views, you can filter, you can sort, you can group, and you can make sure that you're seeing your tasks the way that you want to see them. I'd be remiss if I didn't show you the idea of saving a view. You can always save a view. And generally speaking, when you create a view, it is public for the whole workspace to see. So you can save that for everybody inside the workspace so that if you were to go to another place, so like here, we'll go to this particular folder and we're only dealing with the tasks that are in that folder, great. Well, if I come back up here to the everything level, I can see my urgent task is still here, and it's always going to have those filters I'd assigned previously, the groupings, the sortings, and the me mode, okay? So keep those task views in mind as a good way for you to see the work you need to do and to report out in the way that you want to report it out. Remember as well, folks, you can always add those custom fields we were talking about, and you can always make visible fields that already exist. So on the left-hand side are the fields that already exist. On the right-hand side are those custom fields that we might create. In this case, I might want to put in perhaps the date created. I can see the date created there. Okay, we're going to finish off with the idea of home here. If you click the home button here in the top left, the home button is where you're going to go every day when you have tasks that need done. Or honestly, when you just log into the application, come to the home option. Here, what you'll be able to see is any tasks which are overdue, due today, or up next, or unscheduled. Well, why would you want to see that? Well, the reason is because you could take those tasks and you could position them on the calendar. And you could say, I'm going to get this done at this particular time. It's a great way to organize your day. I really, really love this feature. You can always organize things out further as well if you want to further in the week, right? But keep in mind that you can take your tasks and you can move them to particular times to actually get them done and plan your day. Additionally, up here at the top right, we have something called the lineup. The lineup are those tasks which we want to, are our most important tasks. The tasks I'm going to be working on today in the future. And people can see my lineup. So this is a great way to let people know these are the tasks that are on deck. These are the tasks that are most important to me. It helps you to stay organized and know what you should be doing. Additionally, there's the idea of notifications here, folks. Now, I don't have any notifications because I built out this account. I don't have anybody inside of it with me while you guys were watching, but you want to be clearing your notifications every day. You want to see those notifications that people have sent to you. And you want to stay up to date about the work that you're working on. Here we are, we're 45 minutes in, and I'm sorry, we went a little bit longer, but I'm going to stay after and I'm going to answer some questions that we have here. Let's make sure we're answering those questions. One moment. Okay, so first question, can I create a view or some other way to get a printable overview of specific items I want to send to other party, a summary sheet? Well, here we go. So inside of the, oh, looks like that one was answered. Okay, next question. Is there a way to create a customized view that only guests can see? I only want guests to see tasks and missing info category. Can I create a customized view with this and then send to guests? Okay, so something we'll talk about here is the idea of privacy. Okay, so first and foremost, not everybody on here may understand the idea, but you can actually take specific tasks or folders or lists and you can share them with other people, right? And what I mean by that is if you click into a folder here, when we click into the folder, remember those three dots are your friend. Every time you see those three dots, you can see the settings for that particular folder, all right? Here on this folder, we will always see at the bottom the idea of sharing and permissions. And we can click the sharing and permissions. This will bring up, we're sharing this particular folder, okay? And we can do that on the list level as well. So if we click here, we'll also see the sharing and permissions option. And as well, if we click the particular task, you'll be able to see sharing and permissions, right? So again, folks, you can update these sharing and permissions options at every level of the hierarchy for guests, except for the space level. You can't invite guests to a space. So what do I mean by invite guests? Well, here inside the three dots, I'll click sharing and permissions. And because I'm doing it on the folder level, this guest will have access to all of the lists inside of that folder. So we can say john@example.com, we'll hit next, and you'll see it's invited that person as a guest. It'll tell you how many free guest seats you have available. And here you can see the option of, again, updating that person to a member if you want to. Generally speaking, if it's a guest, you want to keep them as a guest. But further on the right, you're going to see what we call our permissions. Here in the permissions section, there are 4 different options. First and foremost, we're going to start at the bottom, which is the idea of view only, which means that the person will only be able to read the screen. They won't be able to interact with it. And you can have unlimited view-only guests if you want to. Just above that is the comment idea, which means that if the person is assigned, then they can change the status and any assignees or comment on the task. Above the comment is the edit, which means that they can edit, but they can't create any tasks inside these folders. Then finally is the full access, which allows them to create tasks. Generally speaking, you're going to want to limit people's access. Whenever you're inviting a guest, it's always important to, I usually like to start them out on the comment section, comment permission, my apologies, because that makes sure that they're not going to delete anything. They're not going to add more stuff in. They're just going to put in comments to allow us to collaborate with them well, as well as update the different statuses. So we can click that invite option when we do we invited. When you invite a guest, you're going to be able to see the guest user, right? So keep in mind that whenever you're inviting people, those are the permissions you're working with, and those are the ways that you're going to invite folks to those particular levels of the hierarchy. And where you invite people matters as well, right? So you can invite people to the particular task level, and you can say, let's invite here, sharing and permissions option, or from the sharing and permissions there, we can also select, again, the list level, and here again, you can invite them as well. But keep in mind, if you're inviting somebody to the task level, they're not going to have any task views. They're just going to be able to see that particular task that you're inviting them to, right? So they want to make sure that they're seeing that task. All right, so next question. How can we set a recurring task to not show up after it has been completed for 1 week to not reappear until it is time to do it again the next week? I think I understand. Oh, it looks like someone's typing an answer to that. We'll move on. Can I save contacts that we use on many projects, not have them be invited, but for reference? Yeah. Of course. So we use the term task here a lot for the data that we're putting inside of ClickUp, right? Honestly, the tasks are just data. So you can always create a list here, and we can create this list. We can click the edit option. When we click that edit option, we can say this is the contacts list. And inside the contacts list, if I remove the me mode, we can see I've got a task here, but it's really not a task. Instead, let's call this an item. And this item might be, John Bowman. That's me. I work in the customer success department here at ClickUp. But maybe here we might have in not John Bowman, instead it might be Tom Thompson. I don't know how to spell his name. That's cool. Tom Thompson. There we go. But we can always add in items like this to particular lists. And then we can also create custom fields that are relevant for that particular item. You know, in this case, it might be something along the lines of we want to store that person's email. So we can put in the idea of email here and add it. And then we can input the email of john@example.com. and enter on our keyboard. So again, you can build out a contacts list very, very easily inside of ClickUp. And based upon what we were talking about earlier, remember too, you have the sharing and permissions option. So maybe you might want to keep this private. You can make it private by clicking that make private option. You can see who will have access to it in this case, because I just created it and made it private. It's just going to be me. But generally speaking, you can create a contacts list very, very easily there. All right, we're about 5 minutes over. I wanted to say thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. We are recording this. This recording is going to be available afterwards if you want to just chat with our support team. And that's where I'm going to go into the big finish, which is to tell you how awesome you are. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. If you have questions moving forward, the bottom left of the screen is where you're going to get in contact with our support team, because here is the option for help. The help option is great because you have option for self-service, docs and facts. I don't know about you, but I'm somebody who likes to look at docs. I just do. Like, I like to read. I don't like to wait for another person to get back to me, anything that's ongoing there. So I go to the docs first and I do self-service. But maybe you read the doc, something's not clear, that's okay. Hit this connect with ClickUp option, which will give you different options to connect with us. You want to select the chat with our support team here, which will enable you to send us an email. Or if you click this option, you'll have live chat available to you as well, where you can ask us questions, maybe even send us fun gifts. Again, I love gifts, they're kind of fun. So feel free to add that in too. But we don't charge you for support. We're very, very proud of our support here. Our #1 company value is we want to make sure you have the best customer experience possible, you know, not just in the industry, but ever. So if you reach out to us, we really want to do everything possible to help you to get as much value from our program as possible. So reach out, ask us questions. We want to talk to you. We want to have that relationship with you and partner with you to make sure you are saving at least 1 day a week, right? We want to make sure that we're living our mission. Thank you again for coming today, folks. I hope you all have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.